Okay, in the first part of this video, in the first video, the introduction to the only the individual is competent to make decisions for himself. I introduced the concept and the argument and outlined the entire talk, and then I showed the outline for it, and then this talk, and then the second part, the first part, part one, I gave the actual argument why only the individual is competent to make decisions for herself. And here in part two, I'm going to define society because that's obviously critical for arguing for whether or not society should have government or not. So the definition of society is society means voluntarism, which means self-ownership, which means private property rights, which means owning one's labor and fruits of labor, which means everyone has to bid or compete for the property or labor of others, including the poor. Now, when I say this, it's hard to deny that society means voluntarism. How can you think of society as something which is coercive? That makes no sense. And self-ownership of society is also a self-ownership is a precondition of voluntarism, as is private property rights a precondition of self-ownership, as is owning one's labor and fruits of labor a precondition of private property rights. And then as a result of that, everyone has to bid or compete for the property or labor of others, including the poor. So everyone is better off. Now that's one logical description of society. Now this next section is the effect of society based on the nature of human beings. The rich, who along with the middle class save, provides, I got to get rid of this word here, provides the capital which lowers interest rates, which increase investments. This should be here. Which increase investments, which increases, I wonder why I'm doing it like this, which increase investments, which increases the demand for labor, which increases wages and opportunities for the poor, which increases savings, which increases investments, which creates an even wealthier society. So you see here that the rich and the middle class save. That's the only way society grows. That's a fundamental principle of economics. It's something that non-economist, but one which a non-economist knows is true. The rich, who along with the middle class save, it provides capital. In other words, if you don't consume something, you don't spend all your paycheck, and you save some, which is discouraged in the modern inflationary world. If you save some of your money, that's capital. If you save some of your paycheck, that means you're not consuming something. That means there's more stuff left over to create something new, which is what we want, right? And this lowers interest rates when there's more money around because we save more. Obviously, if there's more of something, it becomes cheaper. So interest rates become cheaper. In other words, the interest rate for the money that you saved. And an increase in investment is a result. If there's lower interest rates, obviously more people invest than save, than would otherwise save. And this, of course, and then when you have increased investments, you have to have more labor. If you have a machine, you need to pay somebody to operate it. The more machines you have, again, the law of supply and demand, the more the more you demand labor, and that's the reason that because there's freedom, investments become larger, and they create wages and opportunities for the poor, which increases savings again, which increases investments again, and which creates an even wealthier society. So it's an increasing the invisible hand works in this way in a free society, that people grow their capital, they grow their wages, everything grows, everything gets bigger and better in a free society. Now, let's look at government, the definition of government. Now, one cannot escape from the obligations of government, unlike Microsoft. Government is a monopoly, right? The lack of alternatives is due solely to a threat of violence by this monopoly, right? You can't tell a county tax assessor, well, I don't think I need your services anymore. They would have a good laugh, and then they would send you one letter, and then the next letter would be polite, and the second letter would not be polite, and the third level, they'd take your property. And so monopolies require violence to sustain, and that's what government is. So government is a violent monopoly. Now, let's watch this YouTube, and we'll see how inconsistent our ethics are with what government is. And this is Jan Halfield is a libertarian journalist who gets these kind of he's kind of a guerrilla journalist, and people who don't know who he is give him an interview. And this Senator Inyo from Hawaii is extremely much of a government person. So let's have a look.
Let me see if I understand your position. Basically, would you say that it's wrong for the citizens to initiate physical force against other citizens like an armed robber does?
Unless we permit
But
that
it's okay
by law.
it's okay for the government to do so.
Because the government has been authorized by the people.
Okay, but if the government authorized armed robbers to do it, it would be okay?
If the government is that foolish to do so, I don't know what kind of country that would be, but that's legal, and if it's constitutional, so be it.
But would you think that that's moral for individuals to be
Me?
empowered to,
Oh, no.
to rob their fellow citizens?
I don't think so.
So that would be wrong. So
I
basically,
would think so, it's wrong.
okay, so you think that it's wrong for a citizen, an individual citizen, to initiate force against others to deprive them of their property, but it's okay for the government to do it if the majority has elected that government to do it.
It is okay if the government is authorized to do so. The government is authorized to levy taxes, and the authorization comes from the people through their representatives. Now, if the people through their representatives say no taxes, everything be charity, so be it.
Okay, so you would say that all legitimate governmental power is derived from the people?
That's the way it is in our Constitution.
Do the individual citizens have the right to initiate physical force against other citizens that have not initiated or threatened to initiate force against anybody and haven't violated anybody's property rights?
They cannot do that because they are not authorized to do so under the law.
So individual citizens don't have that right. If they don't have the right to initiate physical force against other citizens, could they have properly delegated that right to the government?
Oh yes, they do so right now.
Can you properly delegate a right that you do not have?
You can give the right to their representatives to make laws that would authorize or make prohibitive certain activities.
So you think that you can delegate
absolutely.
a right that you don't have? You can properly delegate a right that you don't have?
You cannot tax your neighbor, but you can authorize me as your senator to vote for a program that will tax your neighbor.
Okay, so if you say that a person can properly delegate a right that they do not have, is that correct?
Under your distorted argument, yes.
Okay, well, I
You'd
don't have the
rather
right to
torture.
use, I don't have the right to use your.
So you get the point that it's a contradiction to say that it's a violation of, it's wrong to steal from others, but it's okay to, but you have the capacity to delegate that theft. And that's one of the basic ethical problems with government. Okay, so let me escape here.